Hi everyone. What I'm going to be doing in this video is reviewing with you what the expectations are for assignment number 11, character presentation, and then I'm going to be giving you an example presentation that I will do myself. Okay, so this is going to be somewhat similar to the theme paragraph that you had to do, in that you're going to have to analyze your short story, the one that you've chosen, and you're going to have to come up with three sort of main ideas that you'll need to support from the text. However, this assignment is a little bit different in that you do not actually need to write a paragraph. What you will need to do is give an audio presentation of your ideas. So there are two ways that you can do this. So way number one, you can find some software online or maybe on your devices that you already have and create your audio recording through that. You could even use the software that I'm using right now. So the software that I'm using right now is Screencast-O-Matic. It also lets you take a picture of the screen. Whether or not you want to use that's fine. All we need is the audio, just the sound. Okay, so you can find your own program on the internet or use this one, create an audio file, and then just send me the link to it, and that's all you need to do. Alternatively, if you don't want to do that, but you're still able to do an audio presentation, then you can make an appointment with me on Microsoft Teams. So I'm going to have a sign-up sheet for different times on Google Classroom. You'll be able to sign up for a time, and then we just meet on Microsoft Teams in the meeting, and you can just present it for me right there and then. So that's another option that you have. I would prefer that you do one of these two options, that you either create your own audio recording or that you meet me on Microsoft Teams, because part of what you need to do as an ESL student is speak English, and I need to evaluate you on that. So I would really prefer that you do either option A or B. However, I'm also going to have an option C available because not everybody is going to be able maybe to do this. Maybe getting a device is not always easy at any given time, and so it might be easier for you to just do written work instead of creating some kind of audio work. And if that's the case, then you can just write a paragraph. You can write a character paragraph in much the same way that you would write a theme paragraph. So you're going to have a topic sentence, and then three main ideas that support your topic sentence with evidence from the text, and then a concluding sentence. So I would really prefer you not do that, but if you have no other choice, then you can do that and still get the marks for this assignment. The only thing is that if you choose to do this way, if you choose to write instead of do a recording, then your communication mark is going to change a little bit. It won't be based on your pronunciation or your speaking skills, because obviously I won't be hearing you. And so your communication mark is going to be based on spelling, grammar, and the flow of your writing rather than your speaking skills if you go this route. Okay, so there are three choices. You can create an audio file and send it to me or send me the link to it. You can meet me on Microsoft Teams and present it to me live, or if you need to, you can write a paragraph. Okay, so that's what you're going to have to, those are the three ways that you could hand in your work. So let's explain what this exactly is. What do I mean by three main ideas or three things here? So we're going to be talking about character traits. Okay, so character traits, we've already sort of mentioned those in class. Those are aspects of a person's character. So are they a strong person? Are they a happy person? Are they a thoughtful person? What kind of person are they? And so I'm going to need you to give me three traits for the character, and then tell me how you know they have those traits based on what you've read from the story. So I would ask you to fill out this outline here. So again, I'm going to be using The Last Night of the World as the example when I go through this with you. And I'm going to take the wife as the character that I'm going to analyze. Okay, so you obviously need to analyze a character from a story. So I would create this outline to help you. I'm not actually going to be marking the outline for this presentation. I'm strictly going to be marking your audio presentation or your paragraph. One more thing to note here, I'm not expecting you, if you're doing an audio presentation, to just read a paragraph. So I'm not going to be marking you on transition words. I'm not going to be marking you on how well your words sort of flow. As long as you're able to speak in a way that is clear, as long as you're pronouncing the words correctly, and as long as your ideas are organized and your ideas are referred to the text and they're insightful, then you'll do just fine on this assignment. So don't worry so much about adding in transition words and this and that. What you need to do is just organize your thoughts and present them in a clear and well-communicated way. So I didn't even write a paragraph for this. All I did was just make some notes here on my outline, which you can see. And I'm going to be using this in my presentation. So what I'm going to be doing in just a moment here is I'm going to be creating an example audio presentation from The Last Night of the World about the character of the wife. So I'm going to be talking about this character and her 3 traits that I have here. I'm also going to be explaining the traits a little bit more than you need to because you might not know the meaning of these words. So you don't have to explain the words to me. You can just tell me what her traits or his traits are and how you know that. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to begin my presentation on the character of the wife. Okay, so I'm going to be presenting the character of the wife from the short story Last Night of the World. So the first trait that I'm going to assign to her is that she is a very calm person. So how do we know that she's a calm person? Well, she doesn't seem emotional throughout the entire story, even though she knows the world is going to end. She just engages her husband in logical conversation about the end of the world, and she never really seems to get upset. In addition, she flat out says that she's not frightened by death. She goes through the day, she sits and drinks coffee with her husband after dinner. At night they do dishes, she sits by the fire. She doesn't seem at all emotional at all during this time. And then when they're about to go to bed, knowing that this will be the very last time, she says she doesn't think she wants to cry. So she seems calm throughout this entire story, even though she's facing enormous stresses. The second trait that I'm going to assign to her is I'm going to say that she's philosophical. So philosophical means that she thinks a lot about sort of the deep questions of life. So why are we here? Is this life a dream or is it real? These sorts of questions, they're philosophical questions. So I think she's philosophical. And we can see this because she's considered answers to deep questions about the end of the world that her husband hasn't. So her husband asks some questions and she has answers to some of these deep questions. So for example, her husband asks if people have been that bad. So she thinks that the world is partially going to be ending due to the badness of people. So her husband says, really, have they been that bad? And she says, no, nor enormously good. I suppose that's the trouble. We haven't been very much of anything except us, while a big part of the world was busy being lots of quite awful things. So we have this idea here. This is a very important sort of tradition in moral philosophy. We have this idea that to be good, one must actively do good. So if you sit around and you don't do anything bad, right? You're a nice person, you don't do anything bad. That's not enough to say that you've been good. You actually have to go out there and actively do good. You need to help people, maybe run charities, advocate for people's rights. That's what a good person does. And she's saying, well, we haven't done that. A lot of people around the world have been bad, and that we haven't tried to stop them. We haven't tried to help people. So yeah, we are going to be experiencing the end of the world because we haven't been good enough. One more thing to add here. So this is not something you need to say in your presentation. I just want to give you some context. So this story was written in the beginning of the 1950s. The United States at this point had nuclear weapons. The Soviet Union had nuclear weapons at this time. So there really was this kind of feeling that people could destroy the world, right? They'd just come out of World War II, which ended 6 years earlier. So this was a scary time where people weren't sure what could happen. Maybe the world could end. And so she's, when she's referring to people being bad, this maybe is part of the things that she's talking about. The fact that we had this terrible war that was all around the world. There were many atrocities committed, and now people are developing nuclear weapons. So that's some context for you there. All right, back to the presentation. She also responds to another question that her husband says that kind of shows that she's philosophical. So she says, when her husband asks, why is it today that the world's ending? What's special about today? And she says, maybe it's because It was never February 30th, 1951, ever before in history, and now it is, and that's it. Because this date means more than any other date ever meant, and because it's the year when all things are as they all are all over the world, and that's why it's the end. So it's a little bit maybe humorous in here. February 30, obviously there is no February 30, but we can see what she's sort of saying here when she says, things are as they are all over the world, and that's why it's the end. So we have kind of a philosophical answer here that there's nothing really necessarily special about the number, right? Why is it today? Well, it could be any day, but it's today because things happen when the conditions are right. So that's why things are happening today. It's not for any special reason. It's just because everything has been set up today for this to happen. So it's kind of like if you were to ask the question, why did World War I start? You could list a whole bunch of reasons why, and then once the conditions were right, it happened. So the end of the world is just the same. The conditions are there. There's no magic to the number. It's just things are as they are, and this will now happen. Okay, so we can see that she has philosophical answers to her husband's questions. Finally, trait number 3, we can say that she's diligent. And just a brief explanation of this word. So diligent means kind of like you're conscientious, you care about your work, you really want your work to be done well. And this could be your work at your job, but it could also be work that you do for your family. And we can definitely see that she and her husband, they're both diligent, but she is definitely diligent. So even at the end of the world, she and her husband take care of their home. So we can see them both doing the dishes and stacking them carefully. They put the kids to bed on time, so they don't go to bed late. They don't let their kids stay up. They put them to bed at 8:30, just as usual. She folds the bedspread neatly and puts it on the chair. So she's very neat and tidy with her home. And then when she remembers that she forgot to turn off the faucet, even though the world's ending, she walks over to the kitchen, turns off the faucet before coming back to bed. So I think you can say both of them, but definitely she takes her role as a mother and a caretaker in the house very seriously. So she's very diligent about her role as a mother. Okay, so that's it. That's all that's really expected. You just have to mention 3 traits, talk about them, and then give me some evidence from the text as to why those traits apply to that person. All right, that's it. Thank you.